This shouldn't have happened. Hamilton's lap wasn't just fast, it broke Ferrari's own simulation models. Even Frederick Vasseur, the man who runs the team, looked at the data and couldn't believe it was real. Because according to internal sources, the SF-26 was never supposed to be that quick. Not with a weaker engine, not in that setup, and definitely not faster than Mercedes. But here's the twist. Some engineers think the car was bending the rules, and others say Ferrari has just pulled off one of the biggest deception plays in modern Formula One. We'll break it all down, because what Hamilton did in Barcelona has the entire grid on high alert. And if you think this was just a glory lap, you haven't seen the numbers yet. Let's rewind. Barcelona, final day of testing, low fuel, soft tires, late afternoon sun hitting the circuit just right. And suddenly, Hamilton goes purple. Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3, boom, 1 minute, 16.348, fastest time of the week. Everyone watching thought the same thing. Okay, that's quick. But inside the Ferrari garage, silence, not celebration, not high fives, silence, because when the engineers plugged in the data from that lap, they saw something that didn't match anything they'd seen before. Vasseur was handed the readout. He looked at it once, then looked again, and all he said was, "This doesn't make sense," because the SF-26 wasn't supposed to be this fast. In fact, their own simulations had a ceiling, and Hamilton had just smashed through it. The expected delta? Gone. The projected grip window? Exceeded. The drag values? Off the chart. It wasn't just a fast lap. It was an unexplained lap. And in Formula One, that's when alarms start ringing. Because when your own data says the car can't do something, and your driver just did it, there are only two explanations. Either your data is wrong, or the car is doing something you didn't authorize. And that's when the word started to spread. Illegal. It wasn't an accusation. Not yet. But the suspicion was there. Because this wasn't just a surprise. It was a threat. To every other team. To the FIA. And to Ferrari. It was a threat to themselves. Because if they couldn't explain what Hamilton had just done, they weren't in control of their own machine. The numbers weren't just off. They were impossible. Sector 1, too clean. Sector 2, too efficient. Sector 3, absolutely flawless. But here's where it gets weird. The tire didn't match the load profile. The energy deployment, unusually smooth. Almost too smooth. Ferrari's race engineers went line by line through the telemetry. Brake traces, throttle application, rear stability metrics. And nothing looked wrong. But nothing looked normal either. Because this wasn't a lap done on the edge. It was calm, controlled, measured, too measured. Almost like the car wasn't being driven, but programmed. That's when people inside the paddock started asking questions. Was the rear wing flexing under load? Was the ride height adjusting mid-corner? Was the MGUK releasing power outside the intended maps? Nothing illegal, but everything suspicious. And the most dangerous part? Ferrari couldn't answer any of it. Not with certainty. They knew Hamilton had gone faster than expected. Much faster. But they didn't know why. Not entirely. And in Formula One, that's a problem. Because if you're not the one controlling the car, then someone or something else is. And now the whispers are growing louder. That maybe, just maybe, the SF-26 has crossed a line. Not with blatant cheating, but with something far more dangerous. An interpretation of the rules so precise, so legally gray, that even the FIA isn't sure what to do with it. And if that's true, then Ferrari may have just built the most controversial car since the double diffuser. And no one saw it coming. Not even Vasseur. By the next morning, it wasn't just Ferrari asking questions. McLaren wanted access to sector data. Mercedes pulled full overlays from Russell's runs. Red Bull? They went straight to their legal department. Because when Hamilton crossed that line, he didn't just light up the timing screens. He set off a chain reaction. One engineer from a rival team said it flat out. That car's doing something the regs don't cover yet. And that's when the FIA got involved. Quietly. No statements. No drama. Just presence. They sent 2 tech delegates to Ferrari's garage. Routine check, they said. Nothing unusual. Except that visit lasted nearly 45 minutes. And when they left, they took data. Not parts. Not measurements. Data. Power unit logs. Energy deployment files. Rear suspension parameters. Which means they saw something. Or they suspect something. But here's the most unsettling part. The man at the center of all this, Lewis Hamilton. And when reporters asked him about the lap, he didn't blink. He just smiled. "I think there's more to come," he said. More to come. From a car that just beat Mercedes. On soft tires. In testing. With a supposedly weaker engine. And he didn't say it like a threat. He said it like a fact. Calm. Casual. Confident. And that shook the paddock harder than the lap time itself. Because Hamilton doesn't bluff. Not at this stage of his career. If he says there's more, there is. Which means one of two things. Either Ferrari's about to break the sport wide open, or the FIA is about to shut it down. By the end of the week, it wasn't about the lap time anymore. It was about what came next. Because while Ferrari packed up their garage, other teams were already on the offensive. Mercedes requested a closed-door clarification on rear suspension legality. Red Bull submitted a technical inquiry about floor flex under variable load. And McLaren? They stayed quiet, but ordered full simulations of Ferrari's run on their internal servers. The message was clear. The test may be over, but the investigation had just begun. Inside the FIA's technical group, lines were being drawn. Was Ferrari's setup legal? Yes. Technically. Was it intended by the regulations? That's where things get murky. Because Formula One isn't just about speed. It's about interpretation. And what Ferrari might have done is expose a gap in the rules. A blind spot. A zone where innovation runs free. Until the FIA decides it shouldn't. And that's what makes this moment so dangerous. Because if Ferrari's solution is too clever, it forces the sport to choose. Do they reward brilliance? Or shut it down before it changes everything? This isn't new. We've seen it before. The double diffuser. The blown exhaust. The party mode. Every time a team finds something the others missed, the clock starts ticking. Not on performance, on legality. And the louder the rivals complain, the faster the walls close in. And right now, the clock is ticking on the SF-26. Because even if Ferrari hasn't broken any rules, they've made too many people nervous. And when that happens in Formula One, the rules start to bend until they snap. Behind closed doors, Frederic Vasseur knows what this means. This isn't just about testing anymore. It's about survival. Because if Ferrari has finally found something that works, he has to protect it. And if they've pushed too far, he has to defend it. Either way, the pressure is unbearable. Because Vasseur didn't come to Ferrari to finish third. He came to change everything. But now, one lap, one driver, one number, has put the entire project under a microscope. And the man who delivered that lap, Lewis Hamilton, is walking straight into the fire. This is his second season in red. He didn't come here to play politics. He came to finish a story. To do what no one has done in over a decade. Win a world title with Ferrari. But now the spotlight is turning toxic. Because if this car really is bending the rules, and Hamilton keeps winning with it, he becomes the target. Not just the champion, the scapegoat, the face of controversy. And that's the risk. Because the same lap that made the world believe in Ferrari again could be the one that tears it all down. One regulation tweak, one protest, one gray area closed, and the SF-26 could go from masterpiece to myth. But that's what makes this moment so Ferrari. A machine so fast, so delicate, so divisive, that it might collapse under the weight of its own brilliance. And yet, that's exactly where Hamilton thrives. On the edge of legality, in the middle of chaos, when everything is on the line. Because he knows, to make history in this sport, you have to flirt with the line no one else is willing to cross. The countdown has already started. Bahrain is just days away. No more hiding. No more simulations. No more test conditions. Now it's real. And here's the part that no one wants to say out loud. Nobody knows what Ferrari's actually bringing to round one. Not even Ferrari. Because if you believe the whispers, there's still an upgrade coming. A new floor. A modified cooling solution. An aero tweak buried under confidentiality clauses. And if that's true, then the lap Hamilton did in Barcelona wasn't the peak. It was the baseline, which is terrifying. Because that means the car that shocked the paddock wasn't even fully armed. But here's the flip side. Ferrari doesn't get second chances. If Bahrain goes wrong, if the FIA clamps down, if the upgrades fail, everything collapses. The narrative, the hype, the belief. And that's the danger of Barcelona. It raised expectations beyond control. It showed a flash of something Ferrari hasn't had in years. Fear. Not from the fans. from the other teams. For once, Ferrari wasn't being chased by ghosts. It was being chased by lawyers, by engineers, by scrutineers with pens in their hands and doubts in their eyes. Because if Hamilton crosses the line first in Bahrain, everything changes. He's no longer just the guy who made Ferrari look fast in testing. He becomes the threat. The one man who can beat Mercedes at its own game. The one man who might take a car wrapped in red and force the entire sport to rewrite its own rules.